Hello and welcome everyone to Everyday Eternal number 91st, your favorite Cyberpunk 20... No, actually we're still playing Magic, we haven't drifted off yet, even though I might. I'm super hyped for it, even though it's probably coming way too early. But Callum, how have you been? I heard you just stopped playing with your puppy to come on the podcast. How cruel.
I know. I can't believe you made me stop playing with her. I had like a busy work day today, and then I got out a bit late and I rushed home. And then I was running late to come on here, and we were even like 20 minutes late to start recording. But I had to play with my puppy for a little bit, and I was cruelly dragged away. The look in her eyes as I had to say, no, I need to go and record a podcast. It's just dripping with sadness, and I feel cold and dead inside now. No, joking. I'm just going to go and play with her afterwards. Yeah, what have I been up to? I played the Octagon thing, which is an awesome thing, which we mentioned recently, and Arag and Lotus Box are doing. It was myself and 7 other really good Legacy players, but not also like just 7 good Legacy players and me.
I was going to take offense to the other.
Yeah, I caught myself there. Don't worry. I don't want to slander the rest of them with putting myself in there. Check this out. They're going to be running them weekly. It's like 8 people enter, 1 person leaves with $100. It gets streamed. This last one didn't, but it's been recorded, so there'll be footage of it. But it should be streamed. So if there's the opportunity to like get your cool brew on camera you want, or just show people how good you are, then check it out. I came technically 3rd, but I lost to semis, so that was fun.
Yeah, the way it works is you get 100 if you win, and I think you get your entry feedback if you make it to the finals, right?
Yes, so entry feedback if you make it to the finals, and you get entry feedback and $100 if you win. So
okay.
I like these like small event with top heavy prizes. I think it's fun to do, and it was over quickly. It's not like a big time sink to win, like to then just like lose the first round. It's kind of a bummer, but at least you're not putting loads of time into it beforehand. So did that. I've been playing my puppy loads, honestly. I get back from work and then just play with her. So yeah, exciting.
You should post
life.
more pictures of her.
Yeah, I posted one when I first got her on Twitter, and I got a picture of her the other day of her just holding a Christmas hat in her mouth. So I'll post that. She's too much for words. I love her.
You know what Wizards is really missing out on?
A dog called Pinky.
A dog themed. Yeah, like we already got the Plains that has a dog in it, and it was super popular.
Yeah.
And I think now that they're kind of unified the tribes, like dog count, I think everything is a dog now.
Yeah.
There's so much potential in the Legacy community. Like we got so many cats, and I love cats, but I know that even more popular than cats, there's dogs.
Shout out to Adam Wallace, who has championed love of cat Stompy since I've known him for like 2 or 3 years. Every single time you mention a cat, he's just like, yeah, I fucking love cats. So
well, that's me, really. Like for most of my life, I was scared of dogs. Yeah, I'm very much a cat person, but I've grown to really like dogs too over the last 5 years or something. But when I was like a tiny boy growing up on the horse farm, we had somebody who lived like right next to us, and he had 2 dogs, and I was like riding around my bike next to his, I don't even know, place, and one of his dogs came over and he was like, hey Julian, what if you like put your hand into my mouth? And then I close my mouth really hard, like, oh, that doesn't sound great. Ooh, too late. Shit.
Yeah.
Now I'm scared of dogs.
That'll do it. Like any bad experience when you're a kid, it'll be bad. I got charged by a bull when I was really, really young, so I was scared of cows and bulls for a very long time.
Okay,
so,
dude, that's like an next.
I mean, yeah,
I wrestled in the streets of Pamplona or something. Like, where do they do the running of the bulls? I think that's the
just in like the
when I
English
was 5 years old.
Yeah, I was more like probably 10, but I went close to a calf to try and pet it because it was cute, and that was a bad idea, and I got charged by a bull. So yeah.
Did you know, at least in Germany, which animal kills the most humans per year?
Rats?
I mean, it's pretty obvious now.
Cows.
Yeah, cows. Cows kill the most people in Germany per year.
How many? Like 2, 3?
Probably more. Like if you go into the Alps and they roam around. I remember when I was playing football, and if we wanted to get to our football field from the changing room, from the dressing room, we had to walk by like a herd of cattle. I don't know how it works, and that was always scary to me because if one of them freaked out, they could have like basically leveled us, and they never did.
Cows are big. Anyway, we are sidetracking into cows killing people, which is pretty funny when it's just like, what have you been up to lately? What have you been up to lately?
I've been... I received
chasing
a new
cows?
task from my boss. Yeah, no. Chasing Corona, I guess, but not in that way. my boss developed a Corona filtration system, which is like, it has nothing to do with our hotel business, but that's just like what he does. He develops stuff on the side. And now part of my work is that I need to find people who are going to be into that, to like use a very broad term. And I don't know, like there's so much work going on for the hotel because, like I said, we're going to reopen on December 20th, but we're also going to have the first guests a couple of days earlier. And yeah, I'm also spending a lot of time on Expedia and Booking.com, and it's funny how only very slowly technology is catching up to like what we actually need. Because for like the longest of times, especially Expedia was like near unusable on their extranet, and yeah, it's still weird. I had to call somebody in Germany, who calls somebody in Kenya, who calls somebody on the coast. It's just like you have to jump through so many hoops. And I think once all this travel, online, digital stuff is going to be more optimized, there's going to be even more money to be made. But it's only going to take like another decade or two, I guess.
Yeah, seems reasonable. No problem.
So how do we segue this into the person who's, well, I was going to call him a special guest, but you asked me to strike out the special, so we only got a guest. I'm sorry for everyone on the Patreon. We promised you special guests.
I wanted to add the most specialist guest, but you cut me off before I could say that. So we have...
Good save.
Yeah, thank you. I'll introduce him. We have, in my opinion, one of the best Legacy players there is, honestly. He's an absolute crusher online, especially. All around, just nicest guy as well. He likes dogs, so we can segue into it just like that. I want to welcome Tom Hepp, who is also known as Negator77 to the podcast. How's it going, Tom?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Good. So we were talking about dogs then. I was like, I know Tom Hepp wants to like jump in and say, I love dogs too. But
yeah, my border collies are currently staring at me in a way that your dog was to you as well. And
I want to say hello to them.
Yeah, anyway. We'll be going outside and running as soon as this is over.
Yeah, cool. So what have you been up to recently? Anything exciting in the last few weeks?
Magic related, there's been a bunch of stuff. I also played in the Octagon event that you did, which was an interesting experience. I think I like longer events more so than like the quick hitters like that. But the player, you can't really match the player event or the player quality, I guess, in the larger events versus what that field was. I don't know if all the Octagon events will be like that, but that one was basically just 8 really strong players. Played in the showcase event over the weekend and some Magic Leagues here and there, but unfortunately in the States we're kind of back on COVID lockdown, so other interesting outside life activities are kind of on hold.
Yeah, I feel that we're in a position of the same thing here again, just staying inside playing Magic Online. There we go.
Pretty much.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the same here in Germany. We are about to we should probably be on lockdown again, and it's a big discussion going on. But you know what Merkel should do? She had like a big appeal in Parliament today. She should have just told everyone to play Cyberpunk, which is coming out tomorrow, or I guess grind Dark Depth or the Octagon or something. Instead, she appealed to like other stuff. We will see how that works out, but I think she missed a big marketing opportunity there. And speaking of marketing, there's probably there's nobody who's as associated with the Dark Depth archetype than you are, Tom. Is that the correct way to, like, it's always awkward when people ask me, are you the Elves Master? I'm like, well, I'm a guy who plays Elves and who's known for that. I don't know whether I'm the Elves Master, but your name is very much associated with any form of Dark Depth, whether it's like Slow Depth, Turbo Depth, Rainbow Depth, and there's probably like 5 other variants of it that I missed. But before we go like directly into that, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into Magic? Where in the world are you actually? And then how did you actually get into Dark Depth?
I'm just outside of Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, so my Magic story for Legacy is only about 5 years old. I think I got into Legacy in 2015. Since this has already come up twice, it's kind of funny. The way I got into Legacy was Star City Games were having these, I don't even think they were called opens at the time. They were just like 5, 10, and 20Ks they were having. And they were having one at what was called the Philly Convention Center at the time, but it was really like out in the suburbs. And it was just kind of a warehouse that was attached to another warehouse. And they had an event there. And
the classic Magic experience.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, and it was a Legacy event. I was like, oh, well, I don't really play Legacy. I don't know much about Legacy. But, I've been playing Magic for a long time of various formats, was really into Draft for a long time. We have a local casual group. I've just been playing Magic here and there for a very long time. I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I saw that attached to the Magic event within the same warehouse section was a dog show.
Here we go.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to this now, because even if this isn't any fun at all, I can just literally walk 10 feet and there's a dog show here, and I can go buy my dog some stuff and, pet people's animals. Like, this just sounded like a great time. Like, how could I say no to this?
That's the dream.
So I went on to the most technologically advanced Magic strategy site at the time, The Source, and found a thread regarding people trying to port meritocracy from Vintage to Legacy. So
I don't even know which one that is.
It's basically like just a hyper fast Dark Depths combo for Vintage. But like,
I had no idea that was actually a thing in Vintage.
Was it the one in black one?
Porting it from Extended or
it's going back a ways. It hasn't been a thing in Vintage for a very long time. But in 2015, someone was still talking about it.
Yeah, that's the source for you.
Yes. So they built an early version of Turbo Depths, which had some really interesting cards, the old Into the North and all that fun stuff that people used to run back in the day. So it's like, I'll make some personal tweaks to this and I'll just run this in the event, and that's what I did. And it was 9-round day one, and I just had a blast playing and haven't stopped playing Legacy or Dark Depths strategies since.
I think I read your report of that, or maybe it was something afterwards. Did you write a report in The Source for it?
A couple, but I think those were later when I was running in their actual opens with Bug Depths, my own, like, where I actually had something to say.
Yeah. It is interesting how Depths, I don't know, you'll probably be able to tell me the cutoff point better, but it was always, to me, like a cool fringe tier 2, lower tier 2, kind of just a cool kind of Timmy deck. Not to like say this badly about the deck at all, but it was never taken seriously until I think it was Eternal Weekend 2017 or 18? 16? Was it?
I'm pretty sure it was 16, because I think we top 8 in 17 and 16 was the one a year before.
I think it beat Miracles in the final, but until then it had never really gotten any respect. But you were grinding with it before then, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the deck is just the original Turbo version. Just had so many cards that are just not great.
Like
from the Legacy stage, like you have Into the North, but even the cards that still stick around to this day, like, are just awful top decks. Like, you're looking at like Elvish Spirit guides, and like even like a blowout card like Not of This World is just terrible top deck in a lot of matchups, and a dead card in a lot of matchups. Like, so like there's these, you're playing against Ponder Brainstorm Force decks where every card is just objectionable, like through the roof power level wise, and you're running these cards that are only good in specific situations. So
I like the hesitation before calling them cards.
Yeah, some people love these cards. I don't want to offend anyone.
Don't worry, you could chat shit about Dark Depth. It's fine. Or is that a good one?
No, so I think, and even when I was playing it early on, I was not a fan of the Turbo Shell. That's why I built Bug. I just didn't think it just was too high variance. And it's one thing if you're going to a local event or a 7-round tournament or even a 9-round tournament, but if you plan on making it through 2 days of a GP or a high-level tournament with all grinders, it's just not going to happen. The deck's just going to cost you a round or two to itself, and then you have to win every round that you're supposed to win on top of that, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I guess the crux of it is you need to build the deck, like deck building for something like that trades consistency. So as you say, you're going to not have as much consistency as something playing Ponder and stuff, but you're trading that off with a lot of free wins. So you need to find the middle ground there, and you need to build it to up the consistency enough, but still get those free wins and find that, which seems like you've managed to do with like a lot of your versions, honestly. And the deck has just sprung, and now it's been a pretty clear mainstay of tier 1 mostly to tier 2, I think in Legacy for quite a long time since that Eternal Weekend. Why don't you tell us a bit about your history with the decks? You said you started with the Turbo versions, which were like the ports from Vintage, but I know that you were then played Rainbow Lands, which made a lovely comeback. But you also featured such stars as like Slaughter Games back in the day. So, what was your story here? I had to bring it up. Sorry.
So when I initially started, I think the only event that I played the first turbo version in was that first Star City event. I just felt right away that those issues weren't going to go away. Like, you weren't going to be able to just, go through a long event. Like the Star City events were 2-day events. Like, you're not going to go through 15 rounds with that style of deck. So that was when I built Bug to incorporate Brainstorm. So you still have like a lot of your tricks. You can put some of the dead cards back and shuffle them away, which Brainstorm things, mitigates all of that nonsense. So cards like Slaughter Games were just specific meta considerations. So at the time, a couple of the harder matchups were like Miracles with Swords to Plowshares, Recursions, and Snapcasters, so ripping out. But those matchups go really long, so ripping out the swords is a nice, clean path to beating what was a very hard matchup at the time.
Oh, that's what you did? You went Slaughter Games for Swords to Plowshares. I like that, because that also, like you mentioned, turns off the Snapcaster mages for the most part. That's actually really cool. I like that strategic type of like gameplay, but also that feeds into your sideboarding. That I really like that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like all encompassing. So like at the time I was boarding in Surgicals versus them too for the same purpose, but also boarding in Flusterstorms. So you could easily, like, they're not going anywhere at the time. Like, they didn't have the crazy engines of today. There's no Oko Euro where you were under an immense pressure. If you could put the combo on the table and just sit there, the only card that they could really run away with the game with was Jace, and they would never have a window to tap 4 mana for Jace, where you would just kill them with Flusterstorm, countering their Plow. And if a discard spell ever hit their Plow, then you go after it with Surgical, and you can set up turn 7s through turn 10, where you can play 3 or 4 instant speed spells. So even if they leave like 3 mana up and the Swords to Plowshares, you can win the stack battle.
You really sound like a hitman explaining his next assignment. This is how to do it, and then you go for
totally
this,
does.
and then, this.
Yeah, I just loved that. Like, because when you think of, like, when a lot of people think of Dark Depths, they just think, okay, Urborg, discard spell, Depths Hexmage, kill you, herder. Like, almost like people describe show and tell when they complain about losing to that to the turn. It's like, my opponent clearly outplayed me. They took my best card on turn 1, and then they played a 20/20 on turn 2. Like, and the deck still does have games like that, but what I really loved about that deck is that it also could go the other way and play the long game and get into stack battles and stuff like that too.
Yeah, to open myself up to some ridicule here, we did that kind of like showcase stream where I was on Miracles and you were playing your Bug Depths, and I know we joke about this a lot. You slaughtered me, to put it simply. I was fairly confident. I thought Miracles are probably slightly favored again when like both players are equal, and you executed your plan, which you just described like perfectly. And at the end of it, I think I won 1 game or match, and you won like 5 or 6 probably games. And you did exactly that, because you set up a situation on the board where I could just never tap out for Jace. I felt like I needed Jace plus like 5 mana to ever beat what you had, like just sitting on the board plus what I thought you had in hand. So yeah, it was a beautiful game, game to play to. It's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Miracles did not care about Dark Depths at the time.
Yeah,
your lists were more or less aimed at the other top 75s, whereas Miracles was one of the absolute best decks, and I had a very coherent plan to attack it, so it wasn't exactly a level playing field where both players were.
But Tom is saying he just needed a better assignment, like something more challenging. It's like, that's not what he's here for. He wants to take out, like, I don't know, some super high profile case, and not like a random Miracles deck. Like, okay, whatever, dude.
He needed the D&Ts and the Goblins to come.
So, Tom, what led you back to embrace the speed and the power of Turbo Depth? Is there anything that changed in the meta, or did you just like get to a point where you thought that's just like the better compromise between consistency and power?
I think the short answer is the Wizards of the Coast fire philosophy. So eventually they printed so many cards that were so strong that the shell just wasn't playable anymore. So you have Veil of Summer, which shuts down literally every piece of interaction in Bug Depths. So Bug Depths was 8 discard spells, a pile of Flusterstorms, Abrupt Decays, Assassin's Trophies. Like, it literally hits every single disruption piece in the deck. And obviously, it's basically Cryptic Command against all of those. So,
and it stops Hexmage on your Jace. God.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. And decay on Back to Basics and decay on Counterbalance. And yeah, it was just a mess at the beginning. So that was a big card. Another issue was to make the mana work with the Brainstorm Fetch Land setup. You really needed Mox Diamonds because the deck consistently wanted blue on turn 1, but it also wanted double black for Hexmage on 2 and early turn 1 discard, but you also want your crop rotations up immediately against the Wasteland deck. So you need all 3 colors on 1. So you kind of needed Mox Diamond to make it all work. And I don't think Mox Diamond is a playable Magic card anymore unless you're running it in some kind of shell that has either card advantage or an engine to bring it back. So if you're running like Loam or powering out like I don't know how playable Dark Confidant is anymore either, but if you're powering something out, yeah, if you're powering something out to make up for it, because otherwise it just becomes a 3/3 elk and your mana falls to pieces. So Oko did a number on the mana base. Yeah, just things here and there. Teferi was also kind of a nightmare for that shell because, you know, the previous matches we described against Miracles, like even if it's not necessarily Miracles being the most heavily played shell like that, even if it's just like a standard snow shell, if you see Teferi, all of those lines are just immediately off the table. And
so you resisted the temptation of splashing your own versions of Oko and just like, you know, elking up your Elvish Spirit Guides and Vampire Hexmages. You just like swooped your arm across the table. You're like, let's get out of let's get rid of all these bad cards and just let's play Stifle.
Well, it is interesting looking at this deck where it's like it's mostly a 2-color deck. It's a 3-color deck really, but like you have access to all 5 colors with the Rainbow Lands, but it's still arguably got some of the worst mana of any deck in the format. And it like, I mean, it does and it doesn't because you're still crop rotating for a Rainbow Land sometimes, but it is a very, very true 3-color deck where you need this like option to have all different colors on turn 1 and turn 2 and turn 3, and it has to be the right ones, otherwise it can lose you the game, right?
Yeah, exactly. So without access to Mox Diamond, it's really the only way to do it that I can come up with anyway.
Yeah, because some people have asked me, who I just then said, well, we're getting Tom on the cast so he can explain it better, but they asked like why the Rainbow Mana base. So I'll let you explain why, because it really is that color thing. Like you just need so much colors, right?
That's the biggest issue, and one of the big problems with Turbo, besides the power level of the cards and how bad top decks can be. I mean, the deck also runs 8 discard spells, which, depending on how the games are playing out, are also terrible top decks. So, besides, one of the ways it loses to itself the most is for Black-Green Turbo is mulligans, and one of the primary reasons you mulligan is because your mana is just not functional. Like, the deck has low teens in black and green mana sources, low to mid teens, and you just see these hands that you have crop rotation with no green, you have, you know, stage depths, no black with 2 discard spells. Like, you just get in all these spots where you end up having to pretty consistently mull to like 5, say, and it's just not a good spot. So kind of one of the big things with the rainbow setup is it just has 2 additional mana sources of every color, because you're not running a basic swamp, you're not running a basic forest. Instead, you get tricolor lands in those slots, and then I move the Karakas to the board to get another 5-color land into the board or into the main deck. So you're looking at +2 black sources, +2 green sources, even though it's a 3+ color deck.
Yeah, it is a really big deal, isn't it? Because again, I've seen some people kind of mention, oh, you know, why don't you could still run like a couple of jewels and some fetch lands and stuff. But the fetch lands are kind of 3-color, but that land needs to produce like different colors of mana on multiple turns. It needs access to all 3. So you do need access to either crop rotation or a discard spell turn 1, or leave up Stifle or Fluster in the right matchups into the double black for Hexmage, as you say. Like, it's just like sometimes you have to fetch a Trop turn 1 if you had a fetch that mana base, and then turn 2 you can't cast Hexmage off unless you have the Urborg and stuff. It's just they have to be available to cast everything at every stage of the game, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And the downsides aren't what people think they are either. Like, Legacy is, even though the cards are so much stronger now, there's no real like deck that pressures your life total that doesn't kill you. Like the combo decks are just killing you. There's no real aggro deck in the format.
I guess you're saying Red Delver is like a mid-range deck here then.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have to swing 5 or 6 times generally.
Yeah.
To kill you. So you have very few situations where the lands damaging you actually matter. And then the Urborg basically takes away the Mana Confluence disability anyway, because it turns it into a swamp.
How busted is Urborg?
Urborg is really, really good. It makes Gemstone Mine a playable card.
Yeah.
I guess you gotta be careful not to remove the last counter unless you really need that kind of different mana, right? Because it dies once it loses the last Gemstone counter, I think it's called.
Yeah, so that comes up occasionally, but not as much as you'd think, because the first 2 uses is generally enough, because there's less green cards and there's less blue cards in the shell. So if you look at Gemstone Mine like that, like you're getting a green shot out of it and a blue shot out of it, and then it's a permanent swamp.
Yeah. I guess if the match comes to a point where you've used your Gemstone Mine like 3 times and tapped it for Urborg in between, it's probably already like, and this is just like me thinking about this, it's probably at a point where the match might already be kind of decided. I don't know how much you really grind with the deck. I guess given a certain matchup you could, but yeah, I really like this deck. By the way, before we get deep into this, can we just like quickly mention how cheap the deck is actually? Because I looked it up on Goldfish right now, and it says for tabletop, for your most recent list, $600 and something, like $640 for a tier 1 legacy deck. And it's not like that the expensive cards are going to be like super weird. Like the most expensive cards are going to be, what is it, like Thoughtseize that can be played in a lot of decks. Okay, I guess Elvish Spirit Guide is going to be a little bit harder to find a fit for. But for all the rest, like, okay, Mana Confluence, $81, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, okay.
But it's all like lower high prices as well. It's
nothing crazy. Like Surgical Extraction, the sideboard, that's definitely going to hold value no matter what. And I also don't see this kind of like deck type going anywhere. It's not like Wizards is going to be like, oh, we need to ban Out of This World or something. I don't know. Like that's not happening. There's like probably like 200 cards lined up that would be banned before anything out of this deck. So
like Sajiri Step.
Yeah. Dude, I've lost so many fucking games to that card. That's probably the card that induces the most amount of hate and frustration, because people sit there and have like, oh, heard there are Baleful Strix, oh, Icefang Coatl, it's gonna be fine. It's like, no, bam. Or even like with Maverick, when you have Script Ranger and you're like, oh, this is gonna be fine. I have Script Ranger, I have Mother, what can you ever do? Oh, never mind.
But I think it induces more rage really from the actual Depths players themselves. They always draw it. It's amazing. It's like the Progenesis of Depths, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, that's why I really, really miss having Brainstorms to put that in Bojuka Bog back, because you always draw the Bog versus the graveyard decks.
And they're like, okay, I need to discard you to see if the coast is clear, take your crop rotation. Oh, the Bog's in hand, sweet, I'll take your other relevant card. Yeah.
Have you considered Vesuva before I start making other stupid assumptions or like suggestions? That's the first card that comes to mind to semi-solve this.
Yeah, I mean, Vesuva is... It's okay. It's just the problem is it's never a combo land that you need. So like you can't, like, making a second stage doesn't really matter all that often, unless you're going to try the old copy their wasteland trick with one stage to combo with the second stage. But doubling up on Bog and doubling up on Step doesn't come up too often.
Yeah, and I guess in half the cases at least, even playing it from your hand is gonna be okay. For example, if you want to punch through like a flying blocker, if you have it in hand, then that's still gonna do the job. I mean, you can't use it for instant speed protection, I guess that's the big downside.
Yeah, you're kind of just in a spot that you're in a spot, so pre-board you're just like, if it's a Plow Quaddle deck, you're just, okay, hope I also have an Out of This World, or post-board, hope I have a Safekeeper and Out of This World, that kind of thing, but it happens.
That's pretty cool. So before we go into talking a little bit about a couple of matchups, can we quickly mention how much you're destroying the leagues with this, the Magic Online metagame? I don't know how many trophies you have, but there's a rumor out there you're trying to break the upper limit of an integer that Magic Online can have, because apparently it's like a really weird number. It's not a power of 2, it's not a power of 10. It's one of the most random numbers you could ever pick. And I think we gave this to Jarvis, or like Jarvis looked at this as well, and like he knows a thing or two about numbers. And he was also like, I have no idea how you would ever arrive at this kind of number. But there's an upper limit to anything in Magic Online, like life total, tokens, whatever. And it's really weird. And maybe it also extends to, trophies. How many do you have right now?
He's going to pretend like he doesn't know, but he totally knows. It's like 35, I think.
That's close enough.
Dude, is it really 35? I thought what was going to be like 27 or something.
Last season I had 20. I finished with 28. This season's 36 right now.
But this season you're actually trying. Like last season I just I had a win rate of, I don't know, 70-80%, but this season I'm going to crank it up even more. This is actually really crazy.
This is the thing with Tom. He always says he's not really trying, but like, it doesn't matter how much you play if you just win everything. So, god damn you, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to look up my win percentage against Tom, but it's probably not pretty. I guess there's nobody who's got a good win percentage against him. By the way, what I also want to mention, dude, I know, and I mean that's something you've put out there, and people have put out there. You're using your winnings a lot to support legacy content, and I think that's so amazing. I think you sponsored Anorak's Team Lotus Box Diversity Game event with something like 500 tickets. You offer to do stuff for the Legacy Premier League and stuff. Like you're supporting a lot of awesome legacy content out there, and I think I can't really speak for the community when I say thank you, but I can speak for myself and a couple of people I know who think this is really, really amazing that you're doing this. So thank you, Tom.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I view Magic kind of like as a hobby, more or less, and I'm fortunate enough to not be in a position where my job basically takes care of my living needs. So I'm not in a position where I have to make money off of it, and I can just enjoy it for what it is as a hobby, or at least what it is to me. So the fact that I get to do something that I enjoy whenever I want for free, essentially, is incredible. So anything that shows up on my Magic Online account, I think it's just the only thing to do is to pump it right back into the community.
You're the hero we need. Seriously. That's just so amazing.
I'm not gonna, you're the hero we need, but also like the guy that like turn one stifles you. But yes.
Yeah, you gotta build up goodwill. You gotta build up some goodwill so that you can do things like that to people and not get salted on.
Yeah. Oh,
I guess you receive a lot of salt anyway, right? I would guess this kind of deck is one of the most salt-inducing out there.
No, I think there seems to be, the impression I get is that people only seem to salt to people that they don't think they know
are good.
I think there's an anonymity to it. So if you don't actually know the opponent like personally, or you haven't seen like some of their content or whatever, I think it's much easier to say whatever you want to say to them than it is someone that's actually out there.
So who's really famous? I guess you wouldn't shit talk Obama if he goes like good luck, have fun, and then kills you on the first turn with Griselbrand or something. That's the kind of way.
But when you said who's really famous, my first thought was Mengucci. I was like, I would never assault Mengucci.
Oh, but yeah. that says a lot about you. Whom would you assault then?
I assault Tom all the time because I never beat him.
Fair enough.
That's friendly salt though. That doesn't count.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I don't think I've assaulted in years.
I don't know that I would classify anyone in the Legacy community as famous either. It's just a name someone may recognize in passing. Yeah. They're less likely to salt on.
But what you're saying makes sense to me. Like, not to say like I'm super famous or whatever, but I get people messaging me less these days than I did a couple of years ago. Just like random messages in the MTGO chat as you're playing. But I used to get a lot of people complaining about stuff, and I've just noticed less now. That's not clicked until you've just said that now, but it could be a possibility. Yeah.
You know what I get a lot? I actually get a lot of people telling me that they love the podcast, and that's really cool. Like they love the podcast, the stream, anything related to that, and that's 90%, 95% of interactions, and then 5% is like them mistaking me for somebody else and trash talking me actually in Japanese the other day. That was the most amazing thing. I think I talked about that. Somebody was actually like taking that time out to trash talk me in Japanese, and I put it into Google Translate, and of course Google Translate translates in a very friendly way, so it was like the most innocent insults, but you could tell that was actually like not that. It was amazing.
But my interactions are hugely positive, actually. I chat with people about if someone's playing a brew or if I'm playing a brew, we chat about it. Like, people talk about the Sultan and Magic Online all the time, and I find it really funny as much as the next person. But actually, it doesn't happen that much as people make out. You see the bad sides on Twitter and stuff, but there's a lot of cool banter going on and stuff, and yeah, it's pretty good. The only sort I'll give out is when I'm crushing Jax, or some people recognize me as the person that beats Jax or loses to Tom. That's it.
Oh man, we actually got to get Jax on the podcast in a future episode. That was so much fun. I actually only got to really know him at GP Bologna last year.
Guy.
Was it last year?
Yeah,
yeah, he was like staying up until 4 a.m. and crushing everybody with oops.
That's so degenerate.
Dude, talking of degeneracy, I think I've talked about that. Like, Anurag brought his entire computer from the US to Bologna, and then he played League of Legends until, like, I don't know, 3 a.m. with his computer, like the day before the GP. Like, what the fuck? You brought your... I don't know, I can't get over the fact that he brought his computer from the US to Bologna for the next GP.
So you're there resting for the GP and getting ready. Jax is just, like, jamming Oops Leagues till he passes out, like, injecting it into his veins. Anurag is there playing League of Legends until 3 or 4. What? Weird people.
It was my favorite part. Like, when, on the way to the tournament, I've actually never posted the video. Maybe I should. It's Anurag submitting his deck list on his phone on the way to the GP. That was amazing. I don't know, man. That thing a year ago, that was one of the best experiences ever. We had so much fun.
Definitely.
I hope it's gonna be coming back.
Definitely. I'm planning to go over to America for the 100K. I'm gonna meet Tom there. It's gonna be fucking great. So are you going to come to that?
Dude, I want to go too.
Yeah. So when
I'm
that
signed up
back.
for one of those. I don't know which one I'm signed up for. There was a 40K and a 100K, and I signed up for the one that was $200 to play that got postponed.
That's the 100K, I think.
Yeah.
100K, dude.
Cool.
Jeremy's amazing. By the way, did you see Jeremy's actually sending out basically gifts to everyone who signed up for this? And I guess it's going to still take a while for it to arrive everywhere, but I already started seeing it on Twitter, where people are posting basically these gifts that they received because he had to postpone, which is like the most natural thing in the world that he would need to postpone. So like nobody would expect a gift or anything. So it wasn't like his fault or like, if anything, it's good that he did that, and he's actually still sending out gifts to everyone. That's so cool of him.
It's crazy. He seems
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Should we jump back on
greatness?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Tom, which decks, like without going too deep into each matchup, but which of the common decks do you like facing? And is there anything that's the where you say, this is my nemesis, this is the deck I don't want to face, and no matter what I do, I'm always going to be behind?
I think any of the toughest decks are always the decks that have sets of Wastelands and sets of Swords to Plowshares. So whenever you get into the D&Ts of the world that have both of those and Caracas, or you get into the Esper Vials of the world that have both of those and then also have, Peacekeepers, and they both of those decks have Recruiters and things like that. Those are the hardest matchups. It's not that they're unwinnable. It's far from it, but they're just, if you're going against like relative similar experience level as your opponent, it's gonna be hard. So those are but the good part about it is those matchups are always interesting. Those decks aren't blowing you out on the first few turns of the game. So you have turns to maneuver and try and develop and open a window to get them, and they have to play around so many different things, like from their seat. Like I did a little video with XJ Cloud on a D&T match a couple of weeks ago, and there's just so much to worry about from both sides. Like they're constantly worried about, even if you're totally tapped out, they have to worry about Not of This World. They have to worry about Elvish Spirit Guide in a crop rotation for Step to get Wasteland for their Caracas, or to get Step for their Plow. Like they kind of want like 2 levels of interaction at every point, and it's kind of similar for Esper Vial. And so those are really, really, even though they're hard, they're really interesting. So it's not like one of those misery-filled, lopsided matchups where you don't feel like you can ever do anything. Like there's a lot of decisions going on, and you can kind of try and like get into your opponent's head a little bit and see if you can get them to play around something that's not there, that kind of stuff. So they're fun even though they're hard. And
that sounds a lot like chess in a way, where people have to like respect a lot of stuff and juggle a lot of stuff, and you're basically waiting for your opponent to like make a mistake. And then you can capture or something. Like people told me that the D&T mirror is a lot like chess, but this also feels a little bit like it. I've played this deck a little bit every now and then, and always felt like I imagine the levels of interaction that you mentioned, right, that they could have, and then I'm considering how many can I beat, and how likely is it going to be for me to maybe beat another one if I wait a little bit, and how likely are they going to be to draw another level of interaction? Like, this whole game without a game that's going on, even though, like, somebody watching would be like, oh, there's nothing happening in this game, where actually between those two players, every turn, every land you tap for anything is going to send a message, and you have to read that and understand that. And that's, I guess, what people talk about when they call stuff, my most hated word in Magic, quote-unquote skill intensive, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that video ended up being like a half an hour, and the first 5 minutes was the first 5 minutes of the game was literally us discussing whether or not it was correct for the D&T player to play Vial on one or play Wasteland Go, based on all of the bad things that could happen on turn 2 and things they had to play around. And yeah, I think it ended up being like a 6 or 7 turn game, and we talked for half an hour about it because there was that many things to consider.
We should have like proper names for all of those kind of openings. We should have the XJ Gambit or stuff like that. Or the Tom variant, the Philadelphia defense.
When you have the Urborg Thoughtseize, you know it's the Hepp attack. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, are there any matchups out there where you feel like, okay, this is probably going to be a bit more of a cakewalk? Is any of the more played matchups where you feel like they're going to struggle a lot against me?
Yeah, I think it's basic. I know people like throw around the term like buy or things like that unnecessarily or way too much in the community, but
don't say my name.
It's really, really hard for Hogak to ever beat Depths. It's a graveyard-centric deck with a graveyard-based combo against a Bajuka Bog deck with 9 tutors that boards in ley line surgicals and has 8 discard spells, and a quick combo that they have no way to answer and no flying blockers. So that anytime I get paired against Hogak, it's basically...
Yeah, I can see that. Especially the lack of flying blockers, right? Sometimes it's all it takes is for them to survive one more turn, but I think the deck doesn't have anything that can really block here.
No, I mean, every once in a blue moon, you'll see the 1 casting cost black creature that has the dredge discard outlet that I'm blanking on the name of. Yeah, Putrid Imp. Every once in a while, you'll see that, but that's kind of the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, and I think it can't even block once they have Threshold or something, right?
Yeah. So they're kind of in a spot where they're looking for like the turn 2 or turn 3 altar kill, and we also have Needles and Decays too for the altars. So it's kind of like
it's just so unfair.
It's a really, really, really rough matchup. And then like some other fringe ones like Burn basically can never beat Depths. It's just the Goldfish is too fast. Any deck that allows Depths to Goldfish them that can't kill underneath Depths is in trouble.
I keep looking at the deck list and it's so sexy. It's so streamlined, almost, I guess, as a one of Reclaimer, but that's gonna be fine.
You just hate on elves, yeah.
One question that I was actually surprised that nobody actually brought up in our Discord or on Twitter that I want to ask about, that you probably like received the most questions for, I feel, is like, what about those stifles? I think you went up from 1 stifle, the Miser stifle, to 2 stifle. So how did that come about?
So the theory was always one of the primary benefits to running Bug back in the day, even when slow black-green was really good. Like, I think slow black-green took a beating with recent printings too, but back when those were kind of like comparable, and I think slow black-green was a lot better in very fair metas because they could kind of like grind with those slower decks that we talked about, like D&T and things like that. But it was always kind of about the combo matchups to me. Like, I didn't want to lose to the combo matchups, which were way more heavily represented online, which is where I played more often. So basically, Stifle occupies the same space as Pithing Needle, but Pithing Needle is often just terrible against certain combo shells. Like back in the day, it was like Ant that was like the primary one where you just really never wanted a Needle. You were almost naming their fetch lands and then playing Urborg so their fetch lands were swamps anyway. So it was a miserable card. So there's just matchups where I didn't want Needle, where the Stifle had text, where I could stifle a fetch land versus Ant, or if they get sloppy, stifle the Storm Trigger. So it had text in the combo matchups, but also did a lot of the same things Needle did. So you can still stifle the Wasteland, which is what you're often needling. You can still stifle Caracas, that sort of thing. So kind of occupied a similar space, but was better against combo. The reason I upped the count now is because I think 2 reasons. One, the combo decks have shifted a little bit, and in my opinion, one of the better combo decks nowadays is Doomsday. And Stifle is a very good card against Doomsday. I've hit Thassa's Oracle's triggers multiple times. You can shut them down by a full turn, do the old Time Walk trick on fetch. It's just a good card in the matchup. You can even stifle like a Cycler if it comes to that, if you need to buy 1 turn to get the swing in with the 2020 after they've made their Doomsday pile. There's just a lot of different things that it works there. But also I think Needle is just much worse now. Like over the last year and a half, 2 years, there have been a lot of printings that have really impacted it. So one of the biggest spots where Needle was great before is against lands, because they have so many different problematic cards. So they have Wasteland, Ghost Quarter, Caracas, Maze of Ith.
Maze.
Yeah, but they got Blast Zone a while back. So now they have a tutorable land that can not only hit your Needle, but it also like sweeps away your Safekeepers in the process, or a Reclaimer if you have one. So Blast Zone was a really powerful tutorable answer they have to Needle. And then on top of that, they got Force of Vigor. So another way that we try to fight lands is like with Leyline of the Void to shut off the Loam engine. So now you're just putting multiple artifacts and enchantments into play versus a deck that has a tutorable land to get rid of the Needle and a Force of Vigor that can hit your Graveyard Answer and your Needle at the same time and basically bury you. So Needle's way worse in what was one of its strongest matchups previously. And then D&T got Skyclave, which now can come down at instant speed off a Vial and erase your Needle that's on Caracas or erase your Needle that's on Wasteland, and you're pretty much going to lose the game on the spot if you went for the combo and something like that happens. So just Needle kind of losing ground in a couple of the matchups where it used to be at its best makes me want to limit the exposure I have to those kind of effects. But at the same time, it's more proactive than Stifle, so you need an additional mana to be able to combo and stifle a Wasteland on the combo turn, whereas Needle can come down on 1 or on 2, and then you can combo behind it. So it's still good. It's just a lot weaker than it used to be, and I think stifling people off of lands is stronger than it used to be, because the 2 and 3 drops in particular in Legacy are just so crazy powerful that it's to the point where I'm willing to do just about anything to prevent certain cards from hitting the table a turn earlier than necessary. So if that means just firing a discard spell off into Daze on purpose to get them to Daze just so I don't have to see Dreadhorde for 1 more turn, I'm willing to do that. If it means stifling the first land to stall the Oko or the Euro 1 turn, that's very worth it.
I think this is like a recurring theme, because on the last podcast we were talking with Mark about miracles, and we were talking about how Force of Will is so much more powerful than it used to be, because you are very often happy to trade cards for mana now, because it's such a valuable resource where the cards are just so above what trading card for card used to be like. So this again, like, I have the exact same feeling whenever I'm playing any deck I'm on. When I play something turn 1 and it gets Dazed, I'm just like, thank God I'm not playing against a turn 2 Arcanist. Or in some cases like a turn 3 Oko or whatever. Like, you're kind of happy to get Dazed unless it's against the really problematic cards. So that makes perfect sense to me, where you like Stifle is just good to get ahead on mana. It's almost at the point where mana is more important than card advantage. It's maybe we're probably still in the middle where you need to have a mix of both. But yeah, your argument completely checks out. I think you're going to find this with many decks currently, where you want to have ways to either get to the board quickly or take advantage of mana somehow. It's interesting.
It's interesting. I think that's something I've tried to talk about or tried to explain in the last podcast, at least the way I see it, and that is we went from a position where tempo is all about pressuring your opponent's life total, or not all about, but primarily about pressuring your opponent's life total with Tarmogoyfs and Delver and stuff, and now the tempo that we are fighting for is the establishment of an engine, of a strategic, for example, card advantage engine in for example, Dreaded Arcanist is probably the most prominent one. That's the one that we always keep talking about. So, like Tom mentioned, we don't really have this big aggro thing going on anymore. This format has slowed down in that sense, but still on the second and sometimes the third turn as well, but even just like as soon as the second turn, huge bombs are going to happen and we have to fight over them, and that's why we're in this interesting position that I think Legacy has never really been in, where we still have like tempo decks, but they're not looking to pressure your life total. They are looking to get an engine into play and abuse that engine as quickly as they can. And I wonder if anybody in the comments on Reddit, Twitter, on Discord can help us out, but I'm wondering whether Legacy has been in a position like that before, because the last time it's been this slow was around the Mental Misstep era. And I mean, the best we could do was like get down Liliana of the Veil on turn 3, but that's not nearly as threatening as a Dreaded Arcanist. So this is kind of a unique position, and I like the adaptations that you have made to account for this.
Yeah, I tried 4. when I first built this, it was kind of like I saw Ollie's post on Twitter about putting Stifle in lands, and I longed for the day of my 1-of Stifle. So that was kind of like the push to kind of mess around with this. And the original list had 4 Stifles because I just wanted to stifle people. And at first I was surprised at how good it was, but you do need the proactive aspect in this particular shell. So eventually I ended up tweaking it to where it is now. But yeah, I was going 4 of Stifle and punishing people left and right with it for a little while.
Dude, before we move on to listener questions, I've got 2 more questions for you. The first one is, are there any very common mistakes that you see people make against your deck? And the second one is not exactly similar, but if you're looking to target this deck, what sideboard cards or even like main deck cards that you could play are giving you the biggest headaches? So what are common mistakes, and what do I do if this deck is the one I really want to target?
Okay, a common mistake by far is probably the way people use Wastelands against the deck. They're just way too aggressive. So I lose track of the amount of times I play like Urborg and say discard spell and pass, and then I get my Urborg Wastelanded. Like it's like a mental pump of the fist 9 times out of 10. There are 32 lands and mana sources in the turbo or the bug rainbow shell, and it's very unlikely you're going to be able to prevent that deck from playing the game. And any wasteland that's not being pointed at a Thespian Stage or a Dark Depths is a win. So just firing them off, or like people will go after colored sources too. Like they'll go after the Confluences or the City of Brass, and it just so rarely works out. This isn't like the Delver Mirror where there's going to be 19 or 20 lands and they may not be able to play the game. Like this is 24 lands plus 8 one-shot accelerants on top of that. And you're also just asking to get like Spirit Guide crop rotation, even if they're tapped out. And a lot of times people will just fire it off right into an open tri-land too, which, yeah. So I think there are certainly situations where you want to aggressively wasteland, especially if you have an active Clock or an active Dreadhorde, or you have a good reason to do it, but people just do it on turn 1, and it often just leads to a really bad spot for them. So it's a lot harder for the Depths deck to combo through the onboard active Wasteland than it is to combo from scratch, and people often give the option of the latter.
Well, that's really good. I think there's always that temptation, right? You're playing against a stack, and you think maybe I'm gonna steal a win that way, but it's like you mentioned. I wasn't even aware that there's 32 mana sources. There's 24 lands, 4 Lotus Petals, 4 Elvish Spirit Guides. And I guess there's also the added threat of crop rotation of every Spirit Guide, which I guess is still parity card-wise. Is it actually? No, it's not, right? You're going down a card. But still, it's...
Yeah, this isn't a deck that actually cares about being up cards. It cares about getting its combo lands into play. So if you're giving them a chance to get through a Wasteland and go get a combo land at the same time, I will trade a Spirit Guide to do that every time.
So you know what would be the cool answer? You say this deck doesn't care about being up cards. This deck cares about being up games.
There you go.
Boom.
that is extremely accurate.
That's the Hitman motto. Yeah.
As far as cards that people could run against this, like pick a color and I could probably name you 2 or 3 cards. Like,
I guess the most common one that people play these days is green and blue.
So in green and blue has all sorts of bounce. Right now, Depths is kind of preying on the fact that most of these blue players are aimed at each other. So the Delver players are running Submerges in high numbers, and this deck just blanks Submerge entirely. But if they're really concerned about Depths, they could easily swap those into Brazen Borrowers or Chain of Vapors or Echoing Truths or whatever they feel like it. All blue bounce is relevant. When it comes to green, the card that I don't think is good enough to see widespread play because it's not versatile enough. But I have seen JPA run it as a one of, and some other Delver players run it as one ofs. Is Run Afoul is really hard for most Depth shells to play.
This is the moment where I typed this into, because I don't remember what it was, Run Afoul.
God, you call yourself a legacy podcast
there's a chance. Yeah, very bad legacy podcast. Well, it has a dinosaur on it. Okay, I should know about this.
I've played this in Hogek actually to try and beat Depths. It still didn't work. They just discarded it and killed me. But
dude, this is the most French card I've ever seen, by the way.
Yeah, so
it's an instant for 1 green. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. Okay. I guess that's a way to... That's like a verdict effect, an edict effect that gets around your... protection, like Not of the Sword and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it works through all of the protection except Flusterstorm, and if you just get hit with discard, obviously, but there's very few things that are going to work if they resolve a discard spell against. But Run Afoul doesn't fall into the same trap that some of the other edicts have, like where you just play out a Reclaimer, play out a Safekeeper, play out an Elvish Spirit Guide, play out a second Hex Mage, or play out a Hex Mage in combo with the stage. Like, there's ways to beat edicts. But this one's a flyer, so it's basically discard, fluster, or bust to beat that particular card. So if it was ever like some 10+% meta share and you had to beat this in your next tournament, or you're playing in some hyper exclusive 4-man that 2 Depths players are going to be in, you could run a pile of Run Afouls and punish the deck.
There's still going to be somebody who's going to lose despite having the card because they look at Elvish Spirit Guide, they see the wings, and they think, oh, it's flying. My Run Afoul is not going to do anything. Seriously, how's Elvish Spirit Guide not flying? A card that I've used, like actually in tournaments every now and then recently, is Moments Peace, particularly for Elves and for this matchup. Have you encountered the card? I like it so much because even if it gets discarded, you can still flash it back, and otherwise it's going to be a 2-time time walk. So
I don't believe I've ever had that card played against me, but yes, getting double fogged would probably be annoying. I mean, it's probably only good like in the exact scenario you're talking about. Like, you have to, like in a deck like Elves where you can kill them over those 2 turns, then yeah, that works. Otherwise, what are you stalling towards? But yeah, it makes a lot of sense in a deck that can probably put together its kill in that window.
Yeah, I think we need like one more deck that's weak to that card. Maybe Hogak is kind of weak, but then they can still kill you with the combo, so that's why I'm not too thrilled about Moments Peace. But yeah, that's a card I see going in and out of Elves, at least my deck, every now and then right now. So what about the other colors? What is there like in red, black, or white, I guess? I guess white, you already mentioned Peacekeeper and also Plowshares, which are kind of annoying.
Yeah, there's also Path to Exile, Celestial Purge. There's no shortage in white if you really want to pile up on answers. As far as red's probably the weakest. There's Dead Gone.
Red gets that a lot.
Dead Gone, but that's like a 3 casting cost, and it's kind of easy to see from a mile away.
You ever been Chaos Warped?
I have been Chaos Warped, actually.
Yes, nice. That must have been years ago. Holy shit.
You have no idea how many times I've looked at that card as a sideboard option. Because
That's all you need to know about red, by the way.
For Blood
Red
Moon,
would actually consider Chaos Warp. Chaos Warp.
So what I've been looking for years is a red-based answer to Magus of the Moon and Blood Moon that crosses over so that I can just play my Depths and win. And versus their moon, using their moon mana, and that was the closest thing I could come up with. And every time I look at it, I just envision hitting the moon with it, and then like ensnaring Bridge coming off the Chaos Warp trigger. And I was like, I'm not going to do this to myself.
Oh yeah. Random opponents coming to play is just like terrifying. Yeah, I can see some really funny things happening.
Yeah, so
you don't really have much respect for Magus of the Moon, I guess. You got exactly 2 abrupt decays in the sideboard, and how often does it actually come up that you win on discard on beatdown with your crew of Hex Mages, Spirit Guides, and the one of Reclaimer?
Yeah, there's certain matchups where it comes up regularly. I've beaten the Curses deck like 3 or 4 times this month, which is beatdowns. Like, some decks just prevent you from playing the game, but at the same time don't really do anything for extended periods of time, and whatever, you just get in. Like, that happens a lot against the Karn Echo deck too. Like, any hand, I will literally keep any hand that has Accelerant, Land, Collector Oof, because that deck just 80 to 90% of the time just packs to a Collector Oof. It has like 13 mana sources in the entire deck that function once that card's in play.
That's
so
how it happens.
That card just hits play and it doesn't matter. You have 0 combo pieces, that the Oof is going to hit them 10 times, or the Oof and a Spirit Guide are going to hit them. Like, it's good times. So you win with beats more than you'd think.
Have you ever used Not of This World, like hard cast to protect a non-Marit Lage?
That I have not done.
Okay, bucket.
7 is a really high number.
Have you actually cast it yet? Because I did in the league I played.
You cast it for 7?
Yeah.
I
was playing against Snoko.
I can only assume you did something very wrong to get the 7.
I'm sure I did. Oh, I mean, this was like the league that I learnt the hard way that you can't like gemstone mine the 3rd counter for a crop rotation. I learnt many things. I spent like, because the deck is really hard to play. I struggled, but I also was amazingly impressed by how good it is as well. But I struggled with the first league because I was going through all the calculations of what can happen, what can go along, and I was really like tanking for a minute or 2 minutes on a lot of decisions. And then against Snoko, I was like, okay, well, I have the Fluster Storm for this. I have a discard spell to set up the turn afterwards, and blah blah. And then the whole tanking for 2 minutes involved a crop rotation with a mine on 1 counter. And when I went to do it, like the next 2 turns, I was oh god damn it, I suck. But I think that the None of This World was not a winning play. It was like I'm protecting my Spirit Guide to not die to Elks play. Can it do that? Maybe that was it. I'm probably digging myself into a hole. I can't remember.
Sounds like a really sad use of the card.
I'm
sorry. I spent
this
7
is
mana.
Tom coming back again. I can't believe that you used this piece of equipment that way. Dude, that you're embarrassing the whole profession of us.
He sounds so disappointed in me. I'm sorry.
So let me make sure I get this right, because maybe I'm just misunderstanding. You're saying you spent 7 mana to prevent a 2/2 from becoming a 3/3?
No. I was being attacked by things. No. I'm being made fun of here.
Oh no way!
It was like an Oko -5 on that to like.
Oh, they were trying to take your 2/2. Okay, so you countered a control magic on your 2/2. Okay.
I feel like after this, the depth Discord is going to never let this down. I was trying to not die.
The depth Discord is secretly the coolest place in the world. Like when you posted something out of it, I was like, how are there so many cool people talking about stuff even though none of them plays depth?
Oh, it's the absolute best place on the internet.
The main channel of the Depths Discord is called Memes and Dreams.
Yeah, that's the
I
only
should tell you everything you need to know.
This channel is everything you need out of the internet.
There's also a channel that's called Serious Discussion, just because people wanted to avoid the Memes and Dreams channel.
I think I've been in there once or twice.
But the Memes and Dreams channel is where all of the high-level discussion happens.
Like Not of This Worlding, a Elvish Spirit Guide on an Oko -5.
What permanent were you going to get? Because this isn't even a true control magic.
It was like
you were going to get something.
Yeah, okay, I was getting something out of the deal. I've got no base to stand on here. I've let the Depths team down with my terrible plays to try and protect a 2/2.
I think it's just hysterical. If you pay 7 for the Not of This World, you would think the story ends with like, I protected my 3/4 Reclaimer with Not of This World, and then the next swing was lethal. That's how the story should go.
Oh, it was like one of those games. I mean, I was just dead anyway, but it was like I can get one more draw step where I have 0 outs if I do this. So, what the hell?
It's like where the business is going under, and they make the employee do something really embarrassing at the end. For no reason. Like, we've already lost this game. Why are you making Not of This World do this?
Callum, go mop the floor. You spilt the drink over there. Oh god.
But we're never going to open up again. Yeah, dude, just do it, okay? So we can have the impression that still something's going on here.
God, why did I bring this up? This is awful.
In speaking of awesome Discords, we received a lot of questions for you from our Discord, but also from our Twitter. So if you want to hit up our Twitter, that's @EternalMTG. And if you want to get into our Discord, that's part of the Patreon rewards. Just like actually this week, we got a new Patreon, Samuel C. Tilly. And as well as our other patron, Just Sunstrom. And I know Sam actually, he submitted a question. I spoke too early, by the way, when I said nobody was asking about the second depth, because Sam actually has a question for Tom here. How on earth did you come up with Rainbow Depth? Like, who looks at depth and thinks, needs more stifle?
Clearly Tom, if two's not even enough.
Yeah, we hit the stifle mark, but yeah, it was basically a happy accident. I had kind of given up on 3+ color depths being viable because of the Mox Diamond issue, and when I saw the post about stifle and lands, I was like, I just really want to run this, and it was like, well, what's the only way to possibly make this work? And I was like, well, I guess I just jam every 5-color land imaginable into these slots. And then I counted it out, and it still wasn't enough. I was like, all right, I'll cut the Caracas and put another one in, and let's see how this works. So it wasn't like I didn't go down to the lab and it's like, okay, how am I going to build a great deck? It was just I wanted to do something, and it ended up being a lot stronger than I thought it would possibly be.
Do you think one day it's going to become more powerful than you are? It's the stupidest question anyone could ever ask. I feel like one of those, sports reporters after the match. So what was the match like? Did you play hard? Yeah, we played hard. Okay, did the opponent play hard too? Yeah. What are you going to look forward for the next game? Oh, we also want to play hard the next. Oh, you want to play hard the next? Yes. Okay. Feel free to ignore that stupid question from my stupid question. I mean, not Sam's. Yeah. By the way, Sam has another question, and that's actually a really interesting one. I want to hear the truth and nothing but the truth. How many hours per week do you spend on Magic Online? #no judgment, #safe space.
Per week? I think it ends up being, I actually looked at this, not like from a timing perspective, but I was curious like how many matches I got in, like on average a day. So I think it's probably around 3 hours. Yeah, maybe like closer to 3.5 hours a day. So I probably play, like, obviously, like, some days I'm only on for, like, nothing or for an hour or two, and then, like, if there's a big event, I'm on for the duration of the event kind of thing. So, I don't know, over a week, I guess that's maybe, like, something like 25 hours.
And
that's
I guess
like half a job.
I guess games with depths go fairly quickly. I mean, I'm sure you have some grindy ones as well, but...
yeah, there's been some conversation about that, because, like, whenever I go on, like, a brag run.
Oh, yeah.
You post, like, the screenshot of your, like, 24-1 or your 19-1 or whatever it ends up being, or the Mana Traders thing.
Yeah.
And the Magic Online is nice enough to log the beginning times, so you'll see, like, 9:11, 9:18, 9:35. It's like...
So, hey, guys, when this 25-1 run on the last half an hour or so, yeah.
Yeah, so Deps can carve through a league in like an hour and a half, 2 hours pretty easily if things are going well. Obviously, like you'll hit your like 45-50-minute matches against D&T and Snoko, but you'll hit your 10-minute matches against Hogak and things like that.
Nice.
Awesome.
10 minutes sounds generous.
I mean, you do have to sideboard.
True. Okay, fine. God, sideboarding.
That's the longest part. That's the hardest part of the matchup. Moving on, we have another. We got a ton of more questions. So this one's coming from Never Shoot, Martin Nielsen. He's asking, is some variant of Dark Depth combo in that would be Tom's opinion, the strongest strategy in Legacy currently? And if yes, please expand on that if possible.
I think the current shell, the Rainbow Shell, is the best one currently. Just because I think it's more consistent. I think the mana is better than the black-green turbo shell. So it just loses to itself less and has much better combo matchups with the Flusterstorms and Stifles. So I think that's the best positioned right now. I don't think that's always been the case. I think, especially for paper events, I think the slow black-green was the best positioned deck for quite a while. But I don't think those cards necessarily line up as well with the meta right now, whether that shifts back or not. I don't know. Like, I think the cards that punish that deck are probably here to stay. So
just to clarify, you're not only saying this is the best version of Depth, this is what you consider the best strategy in Legacy right now.
That's not what I said.
Oh, okay, because that was what the question was about.
Oh, I misunderstood the question. No, I think Snow and Rogue are by far the two best strategies in Legacy.
At least that's how I understood the question. I could be off too, of course. So you're saying Snow and Rogue, but it's definitely tier 1, right?
It's below
I'm trying to
those
put words into your mouth so we can make a good title for the podcast.
I'm interested where you'd put it though. I'm interested where you'd rank it, because in my opinion, I think it's tier 1. I think it's one of the best decks in the format currently. So where would you think it is?
Probably somewhere in the 5 to 10 range.
Tier 5 to 10?
No. Like if you just I don't like getting into the tier thing. But if you just listed them like 1 through 10,
gotcha.
With a little bit of wiggle room, I'd say somewhere probably between 5 and 10.
I mean, the waters around like the bottom of tier 1 and the upper of tier 2 is always very muddy. But for me, I just think, like in conjunction with you, just like you've been going on so many insane wins with it, like runs with this recently. Like it's not a fluke. Like you've always won a lot, so that says something. But the Mana Traders run was insane. Then you went on that 24 run recently as well, and you're the top of the leaderboard, and other people are winning with this deck as well. So I don't know. It feels better than Depth has in quite a while to me. So.
Yeah, I think it's improved. I think it's hard to tell. It's still new. Like I think I started playing this around like the very end of October. So it's only been around for like 6 or 7 weeks. And there's definitely some brewer's advantage going on where people aren't 100% familiar how their sideboarding should change. Whether that's Rogue Delver players still bringing in Submerges, or people not playing around Stifles or Flusterstorms. Legacy is pretty slow to adapt, and not everyone's like grinding out X matches per week. So yeah,
that's true.
At the end of the day, Legacy is a little on the casual side. So I think over this stretch, there's definitely some, coming back to earth just based on some of those advantages slowly dissipating.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone sees a Mana Confluence go, they'll be like, okay, this is Dredge, and then they get stifled or like flustered or crop rotation and stuff. I bet it came
exactly.
up.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Awesome. So moving on, we got a question from, well, I guess I renamed him to Face Punching Gnome because that's what his name actually means in English. My good friend Tom the Decker from Belgium. He's got a question for Tom. Does he think there are other Legacy decks that could benefit from building the mana bases with rainbow lands rather than traditional fetch land dual setups? It's relatively uncharted territory, I feel. I've only really seen Dredge, Humans, and some old TES builds do that. And I want to add to that, there used to be a 5-color Thresh deck in Legacy as well between like 2006 and 8-ish, which like straight up played 5 colors, and they also played City of Brass because they were honest.
Honest, yeah.
Honest.
You gotta be honest with yourselves. Like you can't. We didn't have anything like Astrolabe and stuff. Like we had to straight up fetch dual lands. And at some point they were like, okay, come on, let me just like drop 2 City of Brass.
City of Brass
that's how I'm gonna cast my Mystic Enforcer.
City of Brass is just the Astrolabe of 2006.
Yeah. it didn't draw nearly as much hate though.
Yeah. Anyway, let's let Tom answer the question.
So I think it takes a lot of, at least based on my experiences with the cards, it takes a lot of ingredients to make those cards worthwhile. So like, the first thing can just be you're just going to try and kill them immediately. So obviously it makes sense in Dredge because they don't care about their life total, and they're just in it to just crush you as soon as possible. So they don't care about mine counters, they don't care about damage. The format is slow, so the damage isn't, it's slow damage wise anyway, to the point where that doesn't necessarily matter as much. But a lot of the decks that can kill you immediately are already in blue, a lot of the combo decks, and it's asking a lot to give up your Brainstorms and your Ponders and your combo decks to want to do anything else. So that's just such a huge downgrade. So like Depths didn't have access to those cards, so it makes a lot of sense. And then it has Urborg to mitigate some of the downsides to the lands, and it can kill fast. So that's a lot of ingredients to make it worthwhile that I don't know that you're going to find in spades across a lot of different archetypes. Like I think in some the damage is going to matter, and others losing the counters off the mine is going to matter, and in a lot you're just giving up way too much to not play the blue cards.
It makes a lot of sense, right? That there's a lot of factors that need to go right for it to make sense. And right now, there's really not too many decks that would actually satisfy those requirements for you to consider running this over the traditional fetch land and cantrip shell.
Yeah, and it's a shame. Yeah, and it's a shame because, like you mentioned earlier, like was a happy accident that the deck ended up being no reserve list, and it's as cheap as it is. So if it could be ported or applied to other decks, that would be amazing. But I just don't know where that would be.
Yeah. Another question we received from our friend Dukes on Twitch, the guy who runs greensunsenate.com, by the way. I love your work for the community, Tom. When would you recommend someone who has access to both turbo depth and slow depth to play slow over turbo? We already talked a little bit about the differences. Is there anything you can see in the foreseeable future that changes that would make you want to run slow depth again? Like the first thing that would come to mind, I guess, is bans, but is there anything other than that?
I don't know. I mean, to be perfectly honest, that was never really my thing to begin with. Like, as far as my preferred play style, I always enjoyed bug over slow, even when slow was probably better. I still ran bug, so I don't know that you could get me. The metas in the past where it was good was when there was not very much combo, and you could try to outgrind some of these decks, but I don't see you being able to do that consistently now that cards like Oko and Euro are in the format. It feels like you're reducing your depths plan, the potency of the depths plan, and in exchange you're getting a better plan B, or a plan B, some would argue, to be able to grind. But it feels like you're in a worse spot in both right now with the power level of the grind cards that other shells have.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think you already made like a really good argument for running the current version over the slow version, and I really like that. I don't know, every time we have a guest on the podcast and they talk about that deck, it gets me really excited and want to play that deck, and then I realize there's only so many hours in a day. But with this deck, I could see putting it together, especially since I must go back to how awesome it feels that this deck is quote unquote just like $600 to $700 in real life. On Magic Offline, I guess, in paper. So that's something that you can put together. So, oh man, I want to do that. I wonder if we're actually going to see a lot more of those once paper Magic becomes a thing again. Because there's a huge draw to these kinds of decks, and yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I think the cool part about some of the cards you guys mentioned earlier that were in like the $20 range or whatever is them being like the actual rainbow lands. Because I don't see a scenario where they crash in price either, because those are so heavily played in casual formats. Like the Commander/EDH crowd like loves their 3, 4, and 5 color Commander decks, so those are going to be like high demand cards regardless of whether it sees play in Legacy.
Yeah, totally. It is just like the only like things that would cost money for the deck that aren't easy to sell on are like just the 4 depths and like then maybe 3 Urborgs, and the rest is just very easy to get moved. Isn't
Urborg even like more of a staple in Modern? I thought like a lot of people. I guess Urborg also is heavily played in casual decks, right?
Yeah, it's really popular, but like I guess actually it is easy to move. I'm just thinking like 1 is easy to move, but actually you can find 4 people that want them, so never mind. But yeah,
awesome deck.
Mm-hmm.
Phil is asking an interesting question. Given Rainbow Depth has access to all 5 colors, what are some red and white cards that you've tried out or have thought about using? I know you've discussed Thud, but with other cards haven't quite made the cut yet. And for those who don't know what Thud is, which up until like an hour ago included me, it's a sorcery, 1 red mana. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, and then Thud deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature power to any target. So that's basically a way to get past something like a Peacekeeper, past a Ensnaring Bridge. But yeah, so I think people used to run, what's it called? Consuming Vapors or something? Consuming something?
Rite of Consumption,
that's the one.
Yeah, so that's always been a popular effect among a lot of people in the Depths community. I've always hated those cards. So, like, before you had Fling and Rite of Consumption, but Depths wasn't really in red, so you didn't run Fling, and Thud is just basically sorcery speed Fling, but for 1 less mana, so that's obviously a lot easier to do on the combo turn. I just think these cards are kind of traps. Like, they will win you games here and there, but there is so much incidental life gain in Legacy in the hard matchups now. It's like, if you think your hard matchups are all the Swords to Plowshare decks, whether that's Espervile or Death and Taxes and Snow, every one of them can gain life by swordsing their own creature to go over 20. Most of them, Snow has Euro and Oko too to go over 20. D&T has Batterskull and Jite to go over 20. Like, there's a lot of situations where you can't one-shot them with one of these cards, and those are the matchups you really want the card for. So it just feels like one of those things where if that was just a protection card, you're probably going to be able to kill them anyway, and if they're able to go over 21, it's just dead. Like, it just doesn't do anything. So
is there anything other in those colors in red and white that you would consider? I think we already talked about Chaos Warp, even though that was basically just brought up as an answer to when you're actually forced to have red mana through Magus of the Moon.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
I will say Tom has tried. He's been trying to find stuff. You asked me, is there any good red and white cards to play? I couldn't think of any.
So there's the problem is the existing cards are really good. So like the space is really tight in the sideboard, but there's definitely like a short list of cards that are reasonable to consider. Like I've looked at Ancient Grudge, just to double up on artifact removal, and obviously that would be great versus like the Echo Karns and those kind of shells of the world. But you really need your removal to double up on artifacts and enchantments because of the natural weakness to Blood Moon. Not that Blood Moon's really present, because I think those Snompy shells are really poorly positioned, with Chalice being probably at its weakest point ever, and Moon being at one of its weakest points ever with the insane number of basics and Astrolabe decks running around. So you don't see too much of it, but you still need to respect it to a certain degree. So I don't think you can switch to Grudge and artifact removal heavy like that. You could always run Pyroblast and Boil's an option if you're really needing to hate on a specific
Moving
deck,
swiftly onwards, let's stop this conversation right here. I don't think we need Boils in this format.
But Boil's really hard anyway, because most of those decks are on like 3 different colors worth of basics and Astrolabe.
You're going to try and Boil Chasing. He's going to have like Bayou, Badlands, Basic Forest, Cephalid Colosseum, and Caracas in play.
No, you're missing Grove of the Burn Willows.
And Grove, of course. That goes without saying. 2 of them at least.
But
I guess Boil will often just be an instant speed Stone Rain for 4 mana.
So in the right kind of meta where some mono blue, say the next fire printing is a busted High Tide card, maybe Boil becomes
if you just queue into Marcus too much as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So white cards that have like I keep like a little list of things to just. I've run Ether Sworn Canonist in the past when I had more of a 5-color mana base, and Bug. Thalia is something you could bring in, considering like Path to Exile as an additional removal spell. Rest in Peace is like an option, but the black Graveyard Hate's kind of better than Rest in Peace because it's faster against like the Oop Shells and the Black Reds of the world. But yeah, I just haven't found anything.
Yeah.
That I think
I guess that's fair, right? You don't have to push something just because it's this would be really cool. The way you've talked about your deck, it seems really thought out, and also all the sideboard cards. What I really like is they're also good, and there's not like this random. Maybe this is just like my 2 or 4 this super fringe matchup. I really like that the way you've constructed the deck. So I can see why you'd be struggling to find anything that you'd want to play over anything that you're already playing. That's a good competitive mindset.
Yeah, and it maps out really well right now across all of the...
Do you have a guide for that we can link? One of the most hated questions among legacy content creators.
So I have one for black-green that's up, and I have one for this list that I put together in 5 minutes the week I made the list because somebody asked for it. Okay. That's very, very wrong. And then I have one that I haven't put up yet. Because I'm still working on it. Like, I've only been playing this deck for 6 or 7 weeks, so I hate the idea of basically putting something out there into the world that someone's going to follow that I end up thinking is wrong immediately. Because some of these matchups, like the guide has like 30 or 40 matchups, so some of these I've played like once or twice, and I really kind of want to refine the boarding plan before sending people to their death just based on theory crafting.
I suggest you side out like 1 or 2 copies of Dark Depths in every matchup.
There's exactly one matchup where Dark Depths should be boarded out.
Should we try and guess it? Julian, what do you think it is?
Probably something Snowco-ish, Miracles-ish, I don't know.
I'm going to guess lands.
The Mirror.
The Mirror, of course.
That's so smart, of course.
God.
Oh yeah. Because they can Thespian stage your own Dark Depth and you feel stupid.
Yeah, and they can vampire Hex Major Depths.
Lands is a good guess too, but they have so much interaction. You really kind of the game plan is often to get under them as soon as possible, so you can't really be shaving the combo density. Even though it is awkward that they can also copy your depths.
Okay, random question: have you ever had someone? Have you ever seen someone Vampire Hexmage the other person's depths? Because I've almost done that in a league before realizing how stupid it is.
No, there can be very good reasons. I've done that. So Hexmage, on top of its really awesome uses like wrecking legacy staples like Ether Vial and Chalice and all the Planeswalkers, and removing infect counters off your Lage to make it a 20/20 again. There's lots of fun things Hexmage does.
That's nice.
But if you have access to Karakas, you can absolutely and your own stage, you can absolutely pop their depths and
see. I was just talking about me being an idiot, but actually that sounds cool.
Why did you actually want to do that in the first place? I'm not
because I'm not going to set up the situation, but I just thought it was I can't play my depths because they have a Hexmage in play, and I was just getting confused as they have a stage in play. So that was it. Yeah. It's just me being silly.
But it really is relevant though at times, because sometimes they can be setting up a go for it at the end of your turn situation where even if you have access to Karakas, they might have the Not of This World.
That's
cool. If you sniff that out, you can at the end of their turn force them to make it so that you get 2 shots at the Karakas and the Not of This World doesn't beat you.
And then they have the second Not of This World.
Well, if they have whatever, sometimes you just get got, but just saying it's a reasonable option. The more common one that I've used quite a few times in the last couple of weeks, actually, because I've been running into the mirror, is Hexmage taking the counters off of their Gemstone Mine.
Ooh,
oh, dude.
That's so cool. I didn't even think of that at all. That's so mean.
But nobody's allowed to do that to me, so don't even think about it.
Now you've said it.
So how long until we actually see value Hexmages in random black decks that don't play Dark Depth?
I just saw one in an ant list the other day.
Are you kidding me? Well, I guess it's supposed to hit Chalice?
I guess Chalice, but I guess because they can tutor for it because their list had, I think it was Grim Tutor too. So they had maybe 6, maybe 2 Wish Calls, maybe 7 tutors. They had 6 or 7 tutors and the Hexmage in the board. So I don't know what their specific thought process was, but it definitely can get rid of a Chalice.
Shadow plays them as well for Chalice and Oko. It's pretty good.
Okay. This is really weird. I thought this was the stupidest joke I could make in a party or something. No.
Okay.
But I guess that's how people feel about a lot of decks that came into Legacy at some point.
Before we jump into the next question, just quickly, Tom, what's the weirdest uses you've had of Hexmage? I'm really interested here. That you've had
the most fun I ever had was a couple of years ago, where someone attacked me with a Blightsteel Colossus and I had to block with Lage to make it a 9/9 and took the counters off and swung back for 20.
That's so sweet.
I've also had Infect. I think I had 16 Infect counters when someone Invigorate Berserked or some crazy sequence and took them off that way.
God.
So making the 20/20 back up to a 20/20 is one of my favorite. But yeah, most of the other uses are
that's cool.
Relatively straightforward.
So, I guess our next question is going to be really weird. It comes from Poo22. The only reason I didn't cut it was because I figured maybe there's some kind of meme in there that I'm not aware of. Has Negator77 tried 5-color Reanimator? If not, why?
I played Reanimator in one big event, and twice I drew 14 cards that did nothing and then died with a Gristlebrand in play, and I won't touch Reanimator again.
I'll just fill in a tiny bit of information here. Poo22 is his new Twitter name, but it's a friend of mine from London, and he's played 5-color kind of Tin Fins Reanimator for many years, and he has all rainbow mana base, and so I think he's just drawn affection to depths here because he likes rainbow lands.
I really gotta reconsider coming to London for a Legacy tournament if people play 5-color Tin Fins. What the fuck is wrong with Brits, man?
Just you wait. He's made some decks. He's made Unplayable Chunder Bucket Pile. Have you heard of that?
Which one?
Unplayable Chunder Bucket Pile. So it's basically like Show and Tell Stompy, but you cut the red and sneak attack for Elvish Piper and Champion of Ronus. It makes sense, right?
I don't know what the champion does, but I know what Elvish Piper does.
It's basically Elvish Piper that has to attack. So he plays like Chalices and Trinispheres, and then he Elvish Pipers like Chancellor of the Annex into play.
He should play that Priestess from the standard from the starter set, which basically does Elvish Piper on your first main phase. I played that in Commander. I don't remember Priest of something. I think the Commander players were gonna know.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, that's
you'll enjoy him in London. Definitely.
And speaking of really weird cards, we got a question from our friend Brian Cook. Why does Tom hate Birds of Paradise so much?
It's evil.
Would you consider the card?
How do you hate Birds of
Paradise?
Paradise?
Is there any place for Birds of Paradise in this kind of deck, especially since I guess it can block in the mirror, but...
Yeah, he's making a joke because we've been on like...
Oh, that was a joke question? Oh, damn, I missed it.
We've been on hangout calls before where I've actually like straight up tilted over Birds of Paradise.
Because of the blocks.
Yeah, like basically it's the spot where like it's in like these Mavericky shells where, you know, they'll have a plow and a wasteland and like a Kaya, and you do all this work to beat like all three things they have, and you have them the next turn, and like their last play is like a Birds of Paradise and it blah, and you can't get through it, and you can't attack twice because of the Kaya, and it just mocks you. And this happened a couple of times in a row, and I just kind of tilted off. And
you, like it just looks at you.
I love that.
I tilted off.
This bird specifically, fuck that bird.
Yeah, I haven't been able to live it down since.
So what do you hate more, Birds of Paradise or Ornithopter?
I hate Ornithopter too, so
yeah,
I will say Ornithopter's worse since Birds of Paradise has amazing art.
Cool.
Okay, now we're slowly discovering the cards that really, really get you.
Yeah, the secrets are coming out. You need to just poke Tom until he lets out the secrets. But if you want to beat Depths, Ornithopter, because it flies. It doesn't have counters, so you can't Hex Mage it, or you can, but it doesn't do anything. And you can't Sajiri step through it. It's pretty busted, really.
Yeah, there's a really funny part of the Channel Fireball video that I did with Anurag where we're boarding against ninjas, and he's like trying to guess what the boarding slots are, and it's like Force of Vigor, and he's like, what? I was like, no, you're bringing Force of Vigor in against ninjas. Yes, you are. they have Ornithopter and Retrofitter Foundry. It's coming in.
Okay, so for our last question here from the listeners, from Peter Blank from the In Response podcast, what is your key to success, Tom? Like, we couldn't find any more broad of a question.
Probably I've just been doing it for a long time. So I think I've been playing Legacy for quite a few years, almost all exclusively on the same strategy. So I think that's just, paid some dividends over the time.
I feel like this, this meme where they're interviewing the dog and they say, so you've been playing Magic the Gathering for X years, you must be really good. And then the dog starts crying. That's how I just felt. When you tell me you've been playing it for a long time, that's why you're pretty good, and you've been playing it for 5 years, and I'm like, damn, and I'm not even that good, and I've been playing it for 15 years. I feel like the dog right now.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say that you're not that good. I think you're outstanding.
Okay, anyways, I think that's pretty much what we wanted to get out of you with regards to your latest creation, Rainbow Depth. We actually received a couple of questions whether you intentionally made it non-reserved list, and I was actually under the impression that you did, but we already talked about that, right? It's just like a happy little accident that it turned out that way.
Yeah, it was definitely a happy accident. I've owned the cards for Depths for years. I didn't have some like, I'm going to make a budget entry deck for people. Like, it just worked out that way, which was obviously really awesome. But
is there any timeline when your I guess it's not necessarily a primer, but your sideboard guide might come out?
I mean, it's basically done. I just want to get a comfort level with it, so I could put it up tonight or send it to somebody if they really wanted to see it. Is
there actually a chance that we could release it with this podcast in like 2 days?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, that would be great. Like, no pressure. But if you have it, then we're definitely going to include it in the show notes on itsjulian.com.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where like you're just going to keep putting it off until you have to do it anyway. And these things are always like, sideboard guides are always inexact sciences anyway. They're more like, I like to look at them as like more suggestions, and based on like what your opponent's doing in their list, you should be like deviating from it regularly anyway. So
I think that's a good way to put it, because the way sideboard guides are going to work is if you're totally new, they're going to give you a basic understanding what the cards are supposed to do, and I think even more importantly, which cards you might want to side out in certain matchups, because it's rather easy-ish most of the time for most sideboard cards to see why you might want them, Unless it's, I guess, Force of Vigor against the Ornithopter deck. But I think the hardest part of any sideboard guide is always which cards are you siding out? And that's the question I get the most for elves. And I guess it would be similar for this deck because there's nothing that really sticks out as I guess there's matchups where you don't want Wasteland. There might be matchups, I guess, where you don't want Needle. But all the rest is like, yeah, this is pretty good straightforward legacy stuff. So it would be really cool to see that kind of stuff included with the podcast. So maybe we can do that.
Yeah, we can try for it.
Awesome. Now, we want to talk more about what else happened over the last 1 or 2 weeks. There's, I think, the most important event that we want to talk about is the Eternal Party 2020 in Tokyo. Just like, I love those generic names. I guess Bazaar of Moxen. Bazaar of Moxen is not generic, but we anyway.
Eternal Party sounds way more fun.
Eternal Party sounds super fun, even though in COVID times it's apparently like really weird. Even though I think didn't Kai Savatari tell us that they are not going to have any big tournaments anytime soon. I could be totally wrong, but I thought he told me that now with COVID coming up again, they might not have that many big tournaments anymore because this one was a really big one. It might actually be the biggest legacy tournament of the year with 230 players.
I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, this shows how much. I'm going to assume here, but I'm pretty sure this is like the numbers are off the back of people not being able to play for a while. And like, you can only imagine like when stuff hits up back again in America or Europe properly, like the numbers are going to be through the roof, I'm sure. So yeah, it's a very good sign. It's very cool.
Yeah. That's really cool. Like when I saw the numbers, 230, that really blew my mind because I think they've still had paper tournaments in Tokyo, and I talked to Kai a little bit about this. I think there's like 30 or 40 shops in Tokyo, which is totally, that's probably like as many as we have in Germany altogether or something like that. And yeah, they got together and they made this awesome tournament. And why don't we like quickly go over first of all like the top 8? So for the top 8, the winning deck, I'm not gonna try. I'm sorry for the players, but I'm not gonna try to pronounce and butcher their names. But we're definitely gonna link the deck lists and the players in the show notes here. The winning deck list is Elves. And Elves with an interesting take on it. I had to Google Translate it to get some rough idea of what they're actually playing, but that actually works pretty well. So if you want to check it out, definitely like open your whatever you use to translate entire web pages. And for Elves, they are using Dignity, Magical Power,
of course,
and Hitman Oof.
Well, I mean,
you guys have any idea what that could be?
All right, I'm not going to look at the website, so I have to guess. Dignity, Magical Power is Natural Order?
Nope, it's a one-off.
Oh, it's a one-off. Oh, Progenitus.
No.
What? Dignity, Magical
Progenitus
Power?
is translated as Great Progenitor.
Oh, of course.
No, it's Regal
God.
Force.
I'm terrible. Regal Force? Really?
Yeah,
I was never guessing that.
In this economy.
Oh my god! Wait, so Hitman Alpha is Regal Force? Or no, Dignity, Magical Power is Regal Force.
Yeah.
What's Hitman Alpha?
Hitman Alpha is my favorite one. It's Collector Oof. I like that they translated Collector with Hitman.
Yeah. That's Tom. Tom's the Hitman.
Yeah, that's my favorite card in the list.
Yeah. God.
So yeah, the deck is pretty straightforward. Other than that, Dignity Magic Power. Regal Force is interesting because the last time we've really seen that in Legacy is like 7 to 8 years ago.
I was about to say since like PT Berlin probably.
Yeah, it still was a thing like in Legacy Elves as well for a while until we got to like understand that just having double Kratos was just better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for those who don't know, by the way, it's a 7 mana. I don't even know the creature type. It's a 5/5, and when it comes into play, you draw a card for each green creature I think you control.
For what it's worth, there is a Japanese streamer who is like has a thing over his stream to make him look like a panda. He's been playing elves with Dignity Magical Power recently. So that could be
might actually be him.
I've forgotten his name. But the people will know who I mean if they know him, who streams looking like a panda. But yeah, so
we're gonna find it out and link it in the show notes. They actually had him on the website, on the Haruya website for I think a deck tag or something.
So his name is Mo Panda.
Oh, Mo Panda? Okay, we're gonna link that.
Cool.
So that's Elves in first place. Second place, we have A&T. The interesting parts in that deck are 2 Flusterstorms in the main, 2 Scented Swarm in the sideboard, and I guess just seeing A&T in the first place is gonna be interesting because we basically moved away from that deck as a format, and everybody's playing Doomsday ever since. But I guess if you have like 2 Flusterstorms in the main and 2 Scented Storms in the sideboard, that's one way to try and fight over Veil of Summer, which would otherwise be quite annoying, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that deck coming back.
It's still a very powerful deck, and I think it's the kind of deck. I mean, I don't want to speak in absolutes here, but I think Doomsday is just slightly stronger of a kind of deck in such a similar style that the people that like playing these kind of decks online especially have just gravitated to Doomsday. But in paper, as always, people do play kind of what they prefer as well, and it's less cut and dry on like, I'm going to play this because I just think this like increases my chances of winning. If you have like a really pimped out Ant deck, or if you've played it for so long, so many years that you feel more confident with it, or especially if you just only play in paper currently, you're not going to just switch to Doomsday because it seems better, but you haven't practiced it because there'll be no paper events, so you're going to stick with what you know. So I think some of these events will reflect stuff like that, so it's worth keeping in mind. So not surprised to see it. I mean, it's still a strong deck. It's still capable of killing pretty quickly and has a lot of disruption. So yeah, pretty cool to see it do well.
Yeah. Another interesting deck that did well in this tournament is World Gotcha Dragon combo, and like there's many ways to build that deck. This is the one that whom did you have on the cast who recently talked about that deck? The 4-color Snowco.
Yeah, we had Kyle on.
I remember him. Yeah, definitely. So I think the most interesting thing about that one, other than it being a fucking 4-color Snowco World Gotcha Dragon combo, is the kill condition, and that's Ishkana Graph Widow.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what that does?
Of course I do. I've played Nickfit. It's a 5-mana 3/5 spider. It has an activated ability for 6 and a black. Your opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. And when it ETBs, if you have Delirium, you get 3 1/2 spiders with reach. Come at me. I know
That's
these
exactly
Nickfit
what
staples.
It does.
Yeah. So this is
well, staples are already reaching, I guess.
It's a Nickfit staple. I promise. I got it.
Okay.
But this is cool. Like, so the more popular win condition, I think, in World Gotcha Dragon, which has been the Duskmantle Guildmage, which they're all kind of not great cards on their own. Ishkana is arguably a better card, even if it's 5 mana. Like, this kind of shell is going to grind out the game to that later stage so you can cast it. And it is much better as a fair card. But Duskmantle, like, it does pitch to force in a pinch, which I know is like a kind of cop-out excuse and people laugh at, but it is pretty legit. Like, if you're winning on the Uro Oko side, then you're fine just pitching your win condition to it. So I can see upsides and downsides to both. In the end, spiders are pretty cool, so I like it.
Something else that's pretty cool is Death in Texas, and this one in 4th place, it actually splashes black for Ors of Pontiff. So I've seen people talk about why would you want Ors of Pontiff over Plague Engineer, and I guess the first thing that actually comes to mind is just flicker effects with, flicker wisp and stuff, so you can like use it even more times. That's I guess the most common one.
Well, does this deck play Cavern of the Souls? Because this is another big reason.
Well, let me actually look this up.
Yeah.
Gonna cut this out.
Because the flicker effect is good, but you can also flicker a Plague Engineer.
Give me a second here, this deck. Well, it doesn't play Cavern of Souls, it plays Cave of Souls, according to a translation here, so I'm gonna wager that's Cavern of Souls.
Should we guess? Yeah. So I think, because Pontiff is a human, so it often names human. So it's tough, because the black splash is just always really hard on the mana. Like, D&T has always struggled to splash. It's one of those things that, like, even if you're trying to build with a very good mana base in mind, it's still a bit iffy, because you want to play all these Rishadon Ports and Wastelands as well. So I think you are slightly dipping in power level, because you can Plague Engineer and name the first thing you want, and then you can flicker the Plague Engineer and name a different thing. So the flicker thing, Pontiff is slightly better, because you can get some pumps out of it as well, or different timings, but I think it ultimately comes down to trying to increase the mana consistency a little bit, which I like. I think the effect of just going -1/-1 at some point is better, to be able to do it more consistently. But it's a close call.
Oh, okay. And speaking of the brother of Death in Texas, I always feel like that's Green White Maverick, also made top 8 in 5th place, and they got a couple of interesting choices. They got Armageddon and Thrun in the sideboard, as well as Felidar Retreat, it keeps coming back, and Fiend Artisan in the main deck. But I gotta say, I'm most thrilled for the Thrun in the sideboard, because that's the Maverick I know and love. And actually, I put it down as Green White Maverick. It's actually Green White Black Maverick. They also had some black cards in there. That's, I guess, the way you do it these days.
I mean, I love Thrun. I like trolls, but what does it do? I guess it blocks elks.
Well, the thing about Thrun is the regeneration is actually quite important. So you can like run into these death touchers and come out like you live beyond death touchers, and it's really good at carrying equipment. So that's always what it's been about. Like the death touch thing, not so much, but the thing that it wouldn't really be touchable. And before Terminus, there weren't really too many good answers for it. Like I guess I'm actually trying to remember what people tried to even play. I guess you could play. What's it called? Green, destroy all green creatures. Perish. Yeah, Perish is actually the one that people played back then, and partially because of Thrun, because you can't regenerate. But other than that, there's not too much stuff that actually gets to really touch Thrun. I guess the problem with it is if your equipment gets elked, then you're not getting too much value out of your Thruns anyway. Like, I guess you get to basically hit for 4 every turn and make them block, or like it's actually kind of comical how hitting for 4 every turn still has a hard time racing Oko.
The other thing is, like, against an Uro, you can't attack, because I know you can attack into it and regenerate, but then they just don't block, and then they attack back and gain 3 and draw a card. It's really hard to race that Uro card. So they can have swords and Caracas, so they have game there, but it's it feels a bit outdated to me. Fiend Artisan I love, though.
Can I mention how much I hate this list?
Sure, go ahead. Show us all the hatred you got.
Not only do they have 2 copies of Birds of Paradise in here, but Sideboard Armageddon is crossing a line. And when I look at the lands, they split their Wastelands and Ghost Quarters, which is really, really hurting my Pithing Needle activations. So this is just too much.
I'm pretty sure this player just heard you might be coming over for the event, and
I nearly did. International travel's really simple nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. That was on my mind as well.
Oh, by the way, they also have Assassin's Loot, which I guess is Assassin's Trophy. So that's another thing.
And Summer Book. Veil of Summer in the sideboard.
Yeah. Dude, this whole Google Translate MTG is amazing. We should have, like, in the future, we should only post our deck list that way. Who's this one? Who Protect the Forest? 07 Safekeeper, I see. Gaia Shakeland. Gaia Straight. Okay, never mind. I could get lost into these auto-translated names. In 6th place, we have, interestingly, not... I actually put this down as Blue-Black Shadow initially, but then I realized, wait, there's actually Reclaimers and Tarnished fucking Citadel. That's something I haven't seen in almost 10 years in Legacy, Tarnished Citadel. That's one of those... Tom, how about running those in Dark Depth? Because that's one of those mana fixing lands that we saw in Dredge 10 years ago. It's basically a rainbow land, but every time you tap it, it deals 4 fucking damage to you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of lightning bolting myself on turn 1 with Mana Confluence into Thoughtseize, but just the land itself doing it is probably a little bit too much for my tastes. Although the Depths community has joked from time to time about building a Shadow Depths deck, so if that ever becomes a thing, that's possible.
So this is... I don't know what the Tarnished Citadel is really for, other than, I guess, lowering your life total, so you can't even surprise kill your opponent, I guess, because you can't get an untapped Tarnished Citadel, so unless you get it with Reclaim at the end of turn. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's probably the best way to put it when you don't really have anything awesome to say about it. It's interesting. Oh, dude, the auto-translated name is so amazing on it. I mean, Tarnished Citadel is already pretty amazing, but the auto-translated name is Faded Fortress.
Oh, that's nice. They should make that into a card. That's
dude,
very cool.
If I was working for Wizards of the Coast, like, I would take inspiration from all of these. Tomb Digger Cage.
Mm-hmm. I like Dignity Magical Power a lot. Maybe second Hitman Elf, but Faded Fortress as well is nice.
Swirling Knowledge
Very
is
nice.
Brainstorm. Dude, that's amazing. Digger of Secrets. Anyway, so rounding out the top 8, we got 2 more Hogak decks. So Hogak, always like a pretty good contender. There's nothing interesting I could really find about those. But yeah, that's what they're doing in Japan right now. And just to round out the top 16, since we have those lists as well, and it makes a lot of sense to mention them for such a big event. 9th place, Omnisneak. 10th place, Rug Delver. 11th place, Doomsday, our friend Kaiser Vatari. 12th place, Red Green Lands. 13th place, Esperwile. 14th place, Death and Taxes. 15th place, Moonstompy. And 16th place, Sneak Show. So that's what's going on in Japan right now, and when I saw this, I was just like so amazed to see that Paper Magic was still a thing, because it's been such a long time since I've actually played it.
This is like nothing like what we're seeing from the online results as well. There's one Rug Delver, and then there's the World Gorgo Dragon deck, which you could call Snow. They're the boogeymen. Everything else is not. We've got Ant in second as well. It's very, very much a paper top 16, which is really, really quite refreshing to see.
Especially
in
like
a nice
Japanese
way.
paper top 16, right? Japan
yes.
always has like weird decks.
The Reclaimer, Tarnished Citadel, Armageddon, Thrun, Oars of Pontiff. Yeah. It's Ishkanar. It's a very, very Japanese awesomeness top 8.
To me, always the card that always gets me when I see Japanese lists is I remember Dead Drop, which is a sorcery for 10 mana. It has Delve, and target player sacrifices 2 creatures.
I adore this card. When I was first getting to know Jarvis properly, he was like kind of not asking me for full deck list, but he was asking, "Oh, what did you play in this Delver deck recently, or this thing?" And just when I was getting to know him, I made him play Dead Drop on stream, and he kept asking me before stream. He was like, "Callum, you sure this card's good?" I was like, "Yeah, totally, it's really good." I think it might have been in a deck with Yuriko, like an old ninjas build, and while he was streaming, I was like, "It's terrible. I don't know what you're doing." So,
but I have an entire country testing this card for you. It must be good. Trust me, Jarvis.
Yeah, exactly. It was brilliant.
I like how Jarvis didn't initially ask you for deck lists, just like individual cards. So you had to earn his respect and trust.
It was more like, "Hey, you've been playing Grixis Delver. What does it look like?" And I'd send over a list, but I'll just like take out a sideboard card and put something more fun in.
Okay, I can get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what's happening in the world of Magic in at least Japan right now, and as well on Magic Online, where Tom is crushing everyone, even though he doesn't really phrase it like that. But I think you might be the most feared man on Magic Online. I mean, there's always Mark, whom we had on the podcast last game, but those matches that you play against Mark, they are drawn out. They give you the illusion that you have a choice. But when you play against Tom, you're basically dead the moment you sit down, and Tom knows it, you know it, and might as well just like not play. But
I'm going to bring up a listener question that we had for the last question, but I want to put it to Tom as well because I think it's such a cool question. Tom, who's your nemesis and who's your that's the best question. Who's your nemesis on Magic Online or Nemesi?
If it's the person I've lost to the most, it's probably Achilles.
He's great.
Yeah, great player.
Marit, right?
Great player, tough matchup, and his lists are always tuned for whatever reason. I don't know what the specifics. He
always has the Birds of Paradise into Kaya.
Yeah, I played against him once and surgical his list because I was irritated after getting Path to Exile in game 1, and I never bring in surgical against Maverick, but I just wanted to see what the list was. And afterwards I found out that he decided to run 4 paths and 4 swords and 3 paths in addition to all the normal hate, and I was just like, all right, man. But yeah, I've lost quite a few matches to him.
Cool. Anyone else on the list, or
there's this white faces guy that I've struggled to maintain an undefeated record against. They stole a match from
me. Oh, dude.
But wait, is this white faces or white feces?
I've never actually played white feces. I've never had the honor.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that even a thing? I think one of my rabbits had that in the 90s.
Stefano, Miracle Stephanogs, he made a White Feces account and 5-0'd with Black Red Reanimator. So everyone kept asking me, he's like, Callum, you're playing Reanimator now. I was like, God. It was like a double-layered troll because it was the White Feces and it was people asking me about Reanimator when it was like at the height of it and I couldn't stand the deck.
The random impersonations gotta stop. We already have like Goblin Lackey 1 and turn 1 Goblin Lackey, and I still struggle with that, even though we had one of them on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
We have Negator 69.
Oh yeah, Negator 69 is actually a new hot thing. Tom, how do you feel about Negator 69, like taking your crown as the best legacy player right now?
I always pay respects to the Negators that came before me. So any Negator under 77,
God, everything you say is like a hitman. It's crazy. Just calculated. Yeah. I pay my respects to the elders.
Yeah, there's one that's above mine. I forget whether it's 87, 88. There's a negator with a higher number that I've been messaged multiple times to ask like why I was salting on people with like the screenshot. And I was like, yeah, that's not the number I use. Like,
fully trained yet. He hasn't figured out how to use the piano string, and that's why he's not on your level.
Yeah, I don't know who the person is. I've just received feedback of my behavior.
Maybe it's Callum.
Yeah.
Julian, not live. God, I told you not to say that.
If you had any idea how many people are out there impersonating me, there's like it's Julian23, but I think there's also it's Julia, which is a girl from France, and she does fashion blogging and stuff, and sometimes people confuse us on Twitter like that. It's a wild word out there. I am considering changing my name to something incredibly unique. I don't know.
We're going to do it's Julian77 soon.
Headshot Killer 5000.
What?
Yeah, something that nobody's gonna name themselves after, because it's like, okay, let me actually, for the next cast I should probably like Google Headshot Killer 5000. Gonna put, okay, see, no results on Google.
Wow.
That's my next name. Headshot Killer. Oh, cool. I put Headshot Killer. Okay, no result for Headshot Killer either. Okay.
All right, that's the new name sorted.
I still have the deck lists up. There's a lot of great usernames built into these deck lists. You could easily be Sheik of the Aristocracy.
Ooh.
Oh, that's Noble Herrick, right?
Yes, it is.
Good guess. We should bring up a game where like you have to guess which one's which. Some are probably easier, but I don't know, I'll get them all wrong.
What do you think Tropical Island is? No, seriously.
Oh, you can't do that. You have to do it the other way around.
Yeah, it is Tropical Island. On both sides.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
God,
Anyway, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Tom, thank you so much for coming on the cast, and please don't kill me next time we see each other. Are you qualified for the showcase qualifier thingy?
No, I finished 9th twice.
Oh fuck, Caleb told me to not bring that up.
I said
because
don't say
9th.
this.
Oh, I messed it up.
My breakers were 0.0007 off.
Ugh, it's so
and they
brutal.
don't pass down the invite anymore.
Nope. I got feedback on that, which basically...
From Wizard of the Coast?
Yeah, I wrote them because I was just curious. I wanted to know what their reasoning for getting rid of it was. And basically what they said was it's too much. They said it was fine when it was a quarterly event. They didn't mind doing it. But now that it's a monthly event...
You know what, to me, what the most surprising thing about this is? This tournament happened last week, and you already received your answer to your question from Wizards. Like, wow.
Well, that's weird because I hadn't submitted anything to them in probably a year or two because I don't really do comp or anything like that. It's just not something I really...
I win all the time anyway. I don't need a compensation for
No, I just think most of this stuff is like, I don't know, you just move on with your life. It's better life EV and time EV to not spend 20 minutes filling out a form about,
Yeah. I don't think I've done that in over 2 years.
Yeah, so I hadn't until 2 weeks ago when I got really irritated because when they did the Commander update, well, one, they got rid of all the replays. They made us re-download the software, which irritated me because I can't do the YouTube videos. But the first league back in, and everyone since, it gives you... I don't know if this is universal or if it's just something for me. It changes your deck that you're registered with every single time to a random deck in your collection.
Oh, it's a feature. It wants you to experience,
Yes.
the wide variety of possible decks. Sometimes it even creates random decks for you, so you can, enjoy the bonder that is Chaos Harlequin.
Yeah. So the very first time post update, I joined a league. Won the roll, looked at my hand, it had a Birds of Paradise in it. I realized I was running Maverick and instantaneously scooped the match, dropped from the league. And I was like, oh, I'm filing for comp for this. There's no way I'm going to punish myself by running Maverick through a league.
I mean, I feel bad for you, but it's also quite funny.
But that one took a full week for them to respond to because I think they had an insane amount of complaints and issues during that time period.
So you're saying the first bug that made you pissed off enough to file for comp was having Birds of Paradise in your hand?
Can you hold on a second?
Oh, it looks like Tom's dog actually just came down and was complaining because Tom, we're actually really sorry we had Tom turn off his heater because it was creating a lot of background noise. And now Tom's dog is coming down. It's like, dude, what's going on? Why is it so cold in here? So I guess we better wrap up here, and like, unless we want to make.
I think the dog has like a thing where it understands when Tom mentions Birds of Paradise too many times, it comes and sees if he's okay. So I'm sure that's what's happened.
That sounds about right.
I guess that could be the thing.
Oh, he's back. Cool.
They're outside now.
So, yeah, if you want to check whether we are okay, you can leave us a review on iTunes. And I was recently told it's not even called iTunes anymore. I think it's Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. So iTunes is like the boomer slang. So if you want to leave us a review on iTunes, good luck. But if you want to, it really makes a difference. We're always super happy about that. We want to maintain our 5-star rating. And that would be really cool. Other ways to support us, you can hit our Patreon on patreon.com/everydayeternal, where you can become a Patreon and join our Discord. Or, like, to me, the biggest thing is always just, like, let people know about the podcast. Let people know that you enjoy this. If they want to get into Legacy, just let them know, there's these two dudes, and they sometimes have awesome guests. Sometimes they have Tom.
Whoa. I think
nice. No.
Don't take a shot at Tom there. God.
I'm sorry, Tom. No, seriously. I'm only taking shots at people who I know I'm going to miss. Is that the best way to phrase it?
If you miss the shot, yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, that's what we're doing here, and yeah. Callum, anything else you want to bring up?
I'm good. It's been a great podcast. I think I'm happy.
That's great. So thanks a lot to our current Patreons on our Eternal Witness tier: Tommy Hinks, Trent Bowers, Testacular, and on the Grizzlebrand tier: Victor Berhatz, Batu Bat, Scott Monroe, Kudish Alistay, Jeremy Gates, and Henrik Kokutz. Thank you so much for making the show possible, for allowing us to produce this. Have a great time. I think are we going to be back before Christmas? We might be back like a day or two before Christmas, something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find something interesting to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. The magical Christmas land is always going to be a good topic.
Yes.
There must be some decks like that. Okay, so thanks a lot. Thanks, Caleb. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone in the community. And have a great time. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.